Have you ever been punished for showing love to a child who desperately needed it? What you're about to hear proves that sometimes the people we dismiss as just the help hold the keys to miracles that million-dollar specialists couldn't unlock. After analyzing hundreds of breakthrough stories, I've discovered a pattern that will shock you about who really heals broken families. By the end of this story, you'll understand why a simple Spanish lullaby succeeded where $300,000 of speech therapy failed, and why a billionaire's biggest mistake became his greatest lesson. Little James went from 18 months of complete silence to calling a fired maid Mama. In a moment that changed everything his father believed about love loss and what money can't buy. If you skip this story, you'll miss the moment that proves why the heart always speaks louder than wealth. The silence in Marcus Wellington's Manhattan penthouse was deafening. 42 floors above the city's chaos, the $15 million apartment felt more like a mausoleum than a home. Marcus, CEO of Wellington Industries and tech billionaire worth $2.3 billion, stared out at the glittering skyline, while his 4-year-old son James sat motionless on the Italian leather sofa clutching a stuffed elephant. 18 months had passed since the car accident that claimed Elena Wellington's life. 18 months since James had spoken a single word. The bright chattering boy who once filled their home with laughter had vanished the night his mother died, replaced by a ghost who moved through rooms like a whisper. Marcus worked 18-hour days now, partly to build his empire, mostly to avoid facing the crushing silence at home. The penthouse had become a museum of grief. No music, no laughter, no joy. Just the hollow echo of expensive heels on marble floors and the constant hum of air purification systems. Have you ever felt helpless watching a child in pain? Marcus had tried everything money could buy. Sarah Richardson, Manhattan's premier speech pathologist, charged $200 per hour for 8 months of advanced articulation therapy. She brought digital speech devices, visual communication boards, and sensory integration tools. James stared blankly through every session, refusing to engage with her cheerful encouragement. He shows no interest in verbal communication, she finally admitted. The trauma has created an impenetrable barrier. Dr. Michael Chen, a child psychologist with degrees from Harvard and Yale, spent 6 months at $300 per hour attempting play therapy and cognitive behavioral techniques. His office overflowed with expensive therapeutic toys and carefully designed activities to process grief. James played silently, mechanically, his eyes empty. Classic selective mutism following traumatic loss, Dr. Chen diagnosed. Some children simply retreat so deeply that traditional methods can't reach them. Dr. Isabella Martinez, a pediatric neurologist, charging $400 per hour, ordered brain scans, neurological assessments, and pharmaceutical interventions over 4 months. No organic cause, she concluded after extensive testing. This is purely psychological. I recommend medication for anxiety and depression, though results in children this young are unpredictable. Elite institutions rejected James one after another. Manhattan Prep Academy's admissions director was blunt. "We cannot accommodate nonverbal students. Our curriculum demands active participation." Private tutors quit after weeks of silence. Speech therapy apps gathered dust on tablets. Sensory toys remained untouched. The total bill after 18 months, over $300,000. Words spoken, 0. How many of us have thrown money at problems that required something else entirely? On a cold Friday evening in November, Marcus faced another crisis. The 5th nanny in 18 months had quit suddenly. "That kid is creepy quiet," she'd muttered while packing. "Gives me the chills. I can't work in a house that feels like a tomb." Desperate Marcus called Elite Family Staffing. "I need someone immediately, tonight if possible." The agency director sighed. "Mr. Wellington, we're running out of qualified candidates. Your situation has developed a reputation. I have one option, but she's not our usual caliber. Maria Santos. She's been housekeeping for wealthy families, but she raised 3 children as a single mother. No formal childcare training, limited English. Frankly, she's all we have available." "Fine, send her." Maria Santos arrived at 8 p.m., her small frame dwarfed by the penthouse's soaring ceilings. At 52, she carried herself with quiet dignity, despite her thrift store coat and worn handbag. She'd immigrated from Guatemala 15 years earlier, working multiple jobs while raising her children alone and sending money to her elderly mother. Marcus barely looked up from his laptop during their 5-minute interview. Just keep the house clean and make sure he doesn't hurt himself. No singing, no loud noises, no disruptions. He needs quiet. Complete quiet. Can you handle that? Si, senor. Yes, sir. Maria nodded, though something flickered in her warm brown eyes. Previous nanny made $85,000. I'll pay you $40,000. Standard benefits. Start Monday. As Maria toured the sterile rooms, she noticed James watching from doorways, a pale, thin boy with Elena's striking blue eyes and Marcus's stubborn jawline. When their eyes met, he didn't run. That was something. Her first week, Maria moved through the penthouse like a gentle breeze. She hummed softly while dusting old habits from raising her own children, stopping immediately when she remembered Marcus's strict rule. But James didn't seem disturbed by the quiet melodies. In fact, he began following her movements, maintaining distance, but staying in whatever room she occupied. Buenos dias, pequeño, she whispered each morning when James appeared in the kitchen doorway. Good morning, little one. He never responded, but he listened. During her first 2 weeks, Maria discovered that gentleness succeeded where expertise had failed. She made no demands for speech, created no pressure for interaction. Instead, she simply included James naturally in her daily rhythm, narrating her actions in soft Spanish, limpiando la mesa, while wiping tables, doblando la ropa, while folding laundry. Without realizing it, she began humming again, lullabies her grandmother had sung in Guatemala, children's songs her own babies had loved. Arroró mi niño, arroró mi sol, she murmured while organizing toys. Rockabye, my child, rockabye, my sunshine. James didn't run away. Instead, he crept closer. Day 8 brought the first breakthrough. Maria was folding laundry when a washcloth fell to the floor. Before she could bend to retrieve it, small fingers placed it gently in her palm. James had helped her. She smiled warmly. Gracias, mi amor. Thank you, my love. By day 10, James was sitting on the floor near Maria during chore time, still silent but present. Day 12 brought brief eye contact during Las Mañanitas, the Mexican birthday song that celebrated new days and fresh hope. Day 14 delivered the first tiny smile when Maria sang about brave little boys who overcome sadness. Marcus, reviewing security footage each night, dismissed these changes. He's probably just bored. At least she keeps him occupied. But Maria was building something profound, a routine of love expressed through melody. Morning songs during breakfast preparation, where James began setting napkins without being asked. Gentle lullabies during evening cleanup when the boy would hand her dropped items. Spanish counting songs while organizing toys, teaching numbers through rhythm rather than rote memorization. She created personalized stories about magical children who found their voices, about brave boys who learned that sadness could coexist with hope. James absorbed every word, every note, though he remained silent. How many of us underestimate the power of simple, consistent love? Weeks 3 and 4 brought deeper connection. James began sitting closer during song time, eventually reaching for Maria's hand during Estrelita Little Star. When Marcus worked late, James would fall asleep to her lullabies, the first peaceful sleep he'd achieved since Elena's death. He brought his favorite stuffed elephant to share during music time, a sign of trust that would have thrilled the expensive therapists who'd failed to earn it. Maria naturally wove language learning into their time together. Through melody, she taught simple Spanish, manos, for hands, ojos, for eyes, corazón, for heart. She created songs about James's daily activities, mixing English and Spanish, naturally helping him process his world through rhythm and rhyme. The transformation was remarkable. James laughed for the first time in 18 months during a silly song about dancing elephants. He clapped his hands during rhythmic children's songs. He initiated hugs when Maria arrived each morning and showed genuine excitement when hearing her car in the driveway. Marcus, watching security footage with growing confusion, saw his son displaying joy he'd forgotten was possible. James was eating better, sleeping peacefully, engaging with his environment. His entire demeanor had changed, relaxed, curious, almost happy. But Marcus's protective instincts warred with hope. Every specialist had failed. Why should an untrained housekeeper succeed where Harvard-educated experts couldn't? During weeks 5 and 6, Maria intuitively addressed what the professionals had missed. James's grief needed gentle processing, not clinical intervention. She wove healing naturally into songs mentioning Mama watching from the stars, in lullabies singing about missing someone while still feeling their love, creating musical stories about loss and resilience. James began vocalizing not words, but humming along wordlessly with familiar melodies. He made sound effects during action songs, attempted to mimic Maria's Spanish pronunciation, showed frustration when she stopped singing too soon. His barriers were dissolving through love, not therapy. Maria shared stories about her own children through song, talking about family of the heart versus family of blood. James responded to maternal references without distress for the first time since Elena's death, beginning to associate nurturing love with safety again. Marcus found himself arriving home earlier to witness these interactions. He saw his son displaying emotions and connections he'd feared were lost forever. But corporate pressures were mounting. Wellington Industries faced a hostile takeover. Board members demanded his constant attention. A $2 billion acquisition required 24-hour focus. The warning signs were building toward explosive confrontation. Marcus worked 22-hour days that week, sleeping in his office, surviving on coffee and stress. 3 days passed without seeing James awake. Investors demanded answers about the failing deal. His company's future hung in the balance. Thursday afternoon brought an unexpected break between meetings. Marcus raced home for fresh clothes and a glimpse of his son. But as he reached the penthouse hallway, he heard something that stopped him cold. Singing. English singing. A woman's voice, warm and melodic, drifted from the living room. Marcus crept closer, his heart hammering. Through the doorway, he saw Maria sitting on the cream leather sofa, James nestled beside her. Both of them completely absorbed in song. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Elena's song. The lullaby his wife had sung to James every single night. The melody that had died with her 18 months ago. Comment below if you've ever felt a memory hit you like a physical blow. James was giggling, clapping, completely engaged, more alive than Marcus had seen him since Elena's death. But all Marcus could hear was his wife's voice echoing from the grave. All he could feel was the crushing weight of loss reopening like a fresh wound. My only sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. The breaking point had arrived. Stop! Marcus's voice exploded through the room like a gunshot. Stop that singing right now! James immediately froze, his small body going rigid. Maria's hands stilled on the songbook. The warmth drained from the room in an instant. Marcus stormed forward, his face flushed with fury and pain. I don't pay you to remind my son of his dead mother. This is exactly what he doesn't need, false hope and painful memories. Wellington, Maria began softly. No. Marcus's voice cracked with 18 months of suppressed grief. You don't understand anything. You're just the housekeeper. I should have known better than to hire someone without proper training. James scrambled behind the sofa, his eyes wide with terror. The joy that had been building for weeks vanished in seconds, replaced by the familiar fear that had defined his world since Elena's death. This moment shows why grief can make us destroy the very things we need most. Pack your things, Marcus continued, his voice cold and final. You're fired, effective immediately. I want you gone by tonight. But James... Maria's eyes filled with tears as she looked toward the child's hiding spot. We'll be fine without your interference. No more singing in this house. It's disturbing his healing process. I'll pay you through the week, but I need you gone. Maria rose with quiet dignity, no arguments or pleas. She approached James's hiding spot behind the sofa, kneeling down to his level. Pequeño, she whispered, her voice breaking. Maria has to go away, but I will always love you, mi corazón. James grabbed her leg with desperate strength, silent tears streaming down his face. Maria gently pried his fingers loose, kissed his forehead, and walked out of his life. The house returned to its devastating silence. Within hours, Marcus had arranged for Mrs. Patterson, a stern nanny with 30 years of experience and a clinical approach to childcare. Children need routine and discipline, not entertainment, she announced upon arrival. This singing nonsense ends now. The next 3 days were hell. James stopped eating, pushing food away with listless hands. He wouldn't leave his bedroom, voluntarily returning to the fetal position sleeping that had terrified doctors months earlier. He was more withdrawn than immediately after Elena's death, as if losing Maria had opened a second wound that wouldn't heal. Mrs. Patterson reported concerning behavioral deterioration each evening. Marcus's productivity crashed despite his son being properly managed. The house felt dead oppressive wrong. He kept hearing echoes of Maria's gentle songs in empty rooms, memories that now felt like accusations. By Tuesday evening, Marcus could deny the truth no longer. He'd made a catastrophic mistake. James hadn't spoken to Mrs. Patterson at all. The child was refusing to get dressed, eat, or engage with anything. His pediatrician warned about clinical depression in young children, recommending immediate intervention. Swallowing his pride, Marcus tracked down Maria's number through the staffing agency. Maria, his voice was small, broken. I think I made a mistake. Would you consider coming back? Silence stretched across the phone line. Then quietly, what about the singing, Mr. Wellington? Just come back, please. James needs you. I can only return if I can be myself with James, Maria said firmly. If he heals through music, I won't apologize for that. I love that boy like my own son. Marcus closed his eyes, 18 months of grief and fear crushing down on him. Whatever he needs. Whatever you think is best. Thursday morning arrived, gray and cold. James had been waiting by the front window since dawn, his small face pressed against the glass. Mrs. Patterson had given her notice, unwilling to manage such a disturbed child. When Maria's modest car pulled into the circular driveway, James began jumping with excitement, his first animated movement in 5 days. Marcus watched from the upstairs landing, nervous and hopeful and terrified. The front door opened. James launched himself into Maria's arms like a missile, both of them crying and holding each other with desperate strength. Mi pequeño, mi amor, Maria whispered, stroking his hair. I'm here, I'm here. They stood in the foyer, rocking gently, healing beginning immediately. Then Maria pulled back slightly, looking into James's eyes with infinite tenderness. She began to sing softly, carefully. Las mañanitas que cantaba el rey David. James looked directly into her eyes, his mouth opening slightly. And then, like sunrise breaking through storm clouds, he spoke. Mama Maria. The words rang through the silent house like cathedral bells. Clear, perfect, joyful. Mama Maria back. Mama Maria, sing love. Mama Maria, don't go away. Stay with James. Marcus dropped his briefcase from the landing, the crash echoing through the foyer. His hand went involuntarily to his heart as tears streamed down his face. For the first time, he understood what had truly healed his son. Not expertise or money, but love given freely by someone who saw James not as a problem to be solved, but as a child who needed a mother's heart. Wait until you hear what happened next. Marcus walked slowly down the stairs, approaching the miracle he'd almost destroyed. He knelt to James's level, his voice thick with emotion. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry I sent Mama Maria away. I was scared and sad, but that wasn't fair to you. He looked up at Maria, this remarkable woman who'd given him back his child. I don't know how to thank you. You gave me my son back. James threw his arms around both adults, chattering happily in English and Spanish, filling the house with the sound Marcus had forgotten the sound of joy. 6 months later, the Wellington penthouse had transformed into something unrecognizable, a home filled with laughter, music, and life. James chattered constantly in both English and Spanish, singing his way through each day with the boundless energy of a healthy 4-year-old. He thrived in his new preschool's music program, made friends easily, and spoke naturally about Mama Elena in heaven and Mama Maria at home. Maria had become family, not an employee. Her official title was Family Care Coordinator. But James called her Mama Maria, and Marcus had learned to call her friend. She lived in the guest wing, had her own car, and her opinion carried weight in all family decisions. Marcus kept his promise to prioritize presence over profit. He was home by 6 p.m. every day for dinner and evening song time. Sundays brought family concerts in the living room, where James performed elaborate shows while Marcus and Maria applauded enthusiastically. The house that had once felt like a tomb now rang with music and laughter. At Wellington Industries' annual charity gala, Marcus shocked attendees by publicly crediting Maria with saving his family. Sometimes the people we overlook hold the keys to miracles, he told a room full of Manhattan's elite. Maria Santos taught me that love and consistency can heal what money cannot buy. He established a scholarship fund for immigrant women entering childcare, providing training and certification for those who, like Maria, possessed natural gifts that formal education couldn't measure. The Maria Santos Family Foundation now helps dozens of families each year. The transformation proved what Maria had known. Instinctively, children don't need perfect solutions, they need perfect love. James's healing came not from expensive interventions, but from someone who saw his heart and sang to it in the language it needed to hear. If James's story touched your heart, and you'd like to hear more inspiring stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Every week I share stories about working-class heroes whose simple acts of love change lives in ways that money never could. Which moment resonated with you most? Was it Maria's patient singing, breaking through James's silence, his first words calling her Mama Maria, or Marcus learning that love speaks louder than wealth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and love hearing how these stories inspire your own acts of kindness. This moment shows why the heart always speaks louder than money, and why the most powerful healing often comes from the most unexpected places.